This is NDTV and you are watching NDTV Prime.
In a city, in a country meant for people who love to live life in the fast lane. I'm Ankur Warikoo and I choose to be a Singapore insider.
Have you driven such cars before?
I have never. How does one experience passion in Singapore? Perhaps one way is cruising through the sights of the city in a Lamborghini.
Why would anyone zipline for 60 kilometers an hour for almost a kilometer?
Or by experiencing it 75 meters above the ground from a zip line.
Crazy! Because you live only once.
How about living the way Singapore does, through their taste buds?
I'm here at the Tiong Bahru market.
Through one-of-a-kind experiences created by a generation which understands the future.
So we're going to be making one of our best sellers today. It's called the pineapple rug.
Life in Singapore is filled with delightful surprises. You never know what you're going to get. Yesterday, I lived up my passion for adventure. Today, I look at how Singaporeans do what they love.
When you think of Singapore, you think of vertical modern structures, but that's not always the case. I'm here on the stairs of the National Gallery, Singapore.
And the country's rich heritage emanates from these walls, which have witnessed many of Singapore's greatest historical events. This beautifully restored building used to be the Singapore's Supreme Court and City Hall in earlier decades. Within this building is housed the single largest collection of Southeast Asian art.
And this isn't the only traditional thing that we will witness here in Singapore on Singapore Insider. Kun Seng Road. This street in Singapore is a beautiful mix of Chinese, Malay, and British influence. The colors here represent very Malay standards. The phoenix is of Chinese origin, and the architectural style is very British. When the Chinese traders came onto the local island and married the local girls, their firstborn generation created a unique identity of their own, which continues to live today. They are known as the Peranicans.
Not far from the city, in a charming corner of eastern Singapore, I discover Peranakan culture. The Peranakan heritage comes alive in its food, architecture, art, and crafts.
The Peranakan culture is not thousands of years old. It's only several hundreds of years. And back then, Chinese traders had commissioned this art piece. It's fascinating how I'm in the middle of this extremely rare art form in this massive cosmopolitan unit called Singapore, and yet humbled by what is one of the 3 remaining pieces of this art form globally. This is Peranakan porcelain. It's made in China, but it's the only porcelain in the world that's not sold in China. It's reflective of true Peranakan culture. It is also unique in the fact that China has a strong influence, and yet you would not find this porcelain anywhere in China, except the spot that I'm standing at. This is Peranakan Chinese beadwork, one of the embroidery skills that young nonyas, women of the Peranakan culture, used to indulge in. It's extremely fine, thousands of beads painstakingly put together, some as small as 1 millimeter in diameter. Mothers used to teach young nonyas this art because it was almost a form of dowry, if you will, that represented whether a young nonya was ready for marriage or not in the Peranakan culture. I'm looking at what Peranakan women wear over the top. It's unique in the sense that every single item made from that particular pattern and size, it's one of its kind. So the next time you're in Singapore and you find an item that you love and it fits you well, grab it because it's destined only for you.
Culture is constantly evolving and changes with time. Nowhere is this more apparent than in its cuisine. I met a young man who has turned his lifelong passion for food into a career in the kitchen. By preserving the traditional flavors of his childhood while boldly pushing culinary boundaries, he's created the world's first Michelin-starred Peranakan restaurant.
Peranakan is really in my blood. I come from that background where my grandma and mom, they cook every day very tasty dishes that I always remember growing up. I wanted to be a chef, and I was more into this French, Western, fine dining kind of style of food. But then there are a lot of things that happened that made me say that, you know, I still like my food. I wanted to explore, discover, and cook them for people.
So tell us more about the Peranakan cuisine. What's so special about it? I believe it's not truly Malay, it's not truly Chinese, but of course a beautiful combination.
Yes, correct. You know, we are a little simple Malay village before, long time ago. And then because of our location, a lot of traders came down to do trade here. So they brought a whole lot of influencers and people from different parts of the world just to do trades. They came here and they probably saw the local women were very pretty, and that's how they got married.
Nice.
And that started the race of Peranakans.
Okay.
So there was, you start to see the influence of Chinese and Malay in their costumes, in their customs, in their furniture, in their houses, and as well as the food. And that's really where that kind of beautiful marriage of flavors. It's like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
The nice things from the Chinese side and the Malay side that is together. And that's really a very simple story to understand what Peranakan culture and food is.
Most of these cuisines,
Yes.
or recipes rather, have come in from generations, but they have the dash of Malcolm on them. Like,
Yes.
have you innovated and have modernized them?
Our style is to really respect the tradition, respect the culture and the principles behind it. And so from the basis of making chili paste or curry paste, we can tweak the proportions or even the style of it and the ingredients that match with it to create a totally new Peranakan dish. To me, that's what I like about food.
For me, Candlenut is going back to the roots while establishing itself as a unique identity. And almost 70% of the patrons that come here are locals. What's their reaction to this cuisine if they're having it for the first time?
You know, you have two camps, you know. One is like, wow, I really don't like this at all because this is not the flavors they grew up with. And then you have the other extreme, which is like, wow, this is so fresh, it's so new, and it's not boring, right? I really believe for us to carry on tradition, sometimes we just have to evolve just a little bit to make it relevant. And being too traditional, you risk of losing it. But again, if you are too modern, then you lose the soul of the food. So the challenge is really the balance. Yeah, I'm very happy that locals come and support us. It means a lot.
We are perhaps filling up a gap, a material culture void in Singapore. So you have food that is that tells of the Singapore story, language that tells of the Singapore story, but how about objects and products?
How much does a bespoke suit usually cost?
On average, customers usually spend about 3,000 to 4,000.
Wow.
We have free performances every single day of the year
That is brilliant.
at the Concourse. So anyone who comes here, they want to enjoy the Esplanade, they can just drop by to watch a performance.